すべての人にインターネット。それはインターネットの可能性を信じ、多くの人に笑顔と感動を届け続ける私たちの決意の言葉だ。90年代に起業してから私たちはずっとより早く、より便利に、より安心にインターネットを加速させてきた。ドメインで、クラウドで、ネット広告で、ネット決済で、ネット証券で、ネット銀行で世の中の暮らしを加速させてきた。インターネットの可能性は無限だと私たちは信じる。新しいテクノロジーで、新しいサービスで、新しい感動を。すべての人にインターネット。 GMO インターネットグループ。
It is now the scheduled time. Mr. Kumagai, the floor is yours.
株主の皆様、本日はご多様のところ
Dear shareholders, thank you very much for taking the time to attend the 2024 General Meeting of Shareholders of GMO Internet Group.
ありがとうございます。GMO インターネットグループ代表の
My name is Masatoshi Kumagai, Representative Director of GMO Internet
そ
Group.
れではただいまより GMO インターネット
I would now like to officially open the 2024 Annual General Meeting of Shareholders of GMO Internet Group, Inc. In accordance with the Articles of Incorporation, I will serve as the chairperson of this meeting. I appreciate your kind cooperation. I would like to report that the quorum required to convene this meeting has been met. Today, all of our directors, including myself, are attending this general meeting of shareholders from our broadcast venue, the GMO Global Studio. To begin, please note that this meeting is being held as a so-called virtual-only shareholders meeting, without a designated physical location, and participation is conducted entirely via the Internet. Although we have made thorough preparations to hold this meeting online, in the unlikely event that a communication failure or other unforeseen incident significantly disrupts proceedings, we ask for your approval through a resolution to delegate to me, as chairperson, the authority to decide whether to postpone or continue the meeting. Shareholders attending the meeting are kindly requested to click the Voting tab at the top left of your screen, select either For or Against, and press the Submit button. We will now begin the voting process. The voting period will be 2 minutes.
では、ただいまをもちまして、
The voting period is now closed. Thank you for your vote.
当該決議につきまして、採決の結果、
As a majority has approved the resolution, I, as chairperson, will have the authority to decide whether to postpone or continue the meeting should a serious disruption occur due to a communication failure or other unforeseen issue.
それでは、本総会の議事に
Before we proceed to the agenda items,
インターネットグループの
we will present a narrated explanation of GMO Internet Group's approach to virtual-only shareholders meetings.
その後
After that, we will provide an overview of today's agenda. In April of last year, our CEO, Masatoshi Kumagai, received 4 comments via X from an individual believed to be a shareholder of GMO Internet Group regarding the operation of virtual shareholders meetings. At today's meeting, we would like to address these comments and explain the reasons why GMO Internet Group has chosen to adopt virtual-only shareholders meetings. To begin with, virtual shareholders meetings are still a relatively new concept. While in-person shareholders meetings have been held millions of times throughout history and around the world, it is fair to say that virtual meetings, including hybrid formats, have only been held a tiny fraction of that number. We believe there is still insufficient data to fully evaluate virtual shareholders meetings. We at GMO Internet Group are a collective of companies committed to changing the world through internet technology. We believe that actively embracing innovations such as virtual shareholders meetings, made possible by the evolution of the internet, is central to our purpose. As with any new system, there are both strengths and weaknesses. We aim to build on the positives and work to improve the negatives, and we sincerely appreciate your understanding. Now, I would like to respond in detail to the 4 points raised by the shareholder. The first point concerns the format of questions submitted on the day of the meeting. We received feedback stating questions were limited to 300 characters, but the chairperson only gave a summary and didn't read the full text. If a character limit is imposed, the full question should be read aloud. Based on this input, we have revised the question format for shareholders meetings held from September 2024 onward. We now ask that you submit a brief summary or key points of your question in 150 characters or fewer. This summary will be read aloud during the Q&A session. Additionally, you may provide background, reasoning, and further details in a separate field below. Please note that due to system constraints, the total character limit is 2,000 characters. The second point concerns how questions are handled on the day of the meeting. We received feedback that the question submission window was closed before answers were given, so follow-up questions could not be submitted. To ensure smooth proceedings, we allow 1 question per shareholder on the day of the meeting. This policy has been in place even before the shift to virtual meetings. We close the question submission window at the start of the live Q&A session, after we have responded to the questions submitted in advance. We kindly ask for your understanding. If you have any additional questions related to the Q&A session, please feel free to contact our Investor Relations Department. The third point concerns uploading the shareholders meeting video to our corporate website. We received feedback requesting that the video be uploaded without any edits. Until March of last year, we made edits to prioritize viewer accessibility, such as removing unnecessary pauses and protecting shareholder privacy. However, moving forward, we will upload the video in its entirety without cuts. Lastly, The fourth point relates to why GMO Internet Group has adopted the virtual-only format for shareholders' meetings. We have previously held shareholders' meetings in all three formats: physical, hybrid, and virtual only. Each format has its pros and cons, and as mentioned earlier, we believe it is premature to conclude which is best at this stage. That said, the virtual-only format allows shareholders to participate from anywhere in the world, as long as they have an internet connection. In fact, we have received positive feedback from shareholders who were able to attend from remote locations. Compared to in-person or hybrid formats, the virtual format also helps reduce risks, such as disruptions from unexpected remarks, thereby allowing the meeting to proceed smoothly and efficiently without unduly prolonging shareholders' time commitment. We do recognize the concern that virtual formats may lead to weaker communication with shareholders. To address this, we aim to enhance the quality and content of our shareholder meetings, financial briefings, and other IR initiatives. We will continue to gather experience and improve through dialogue with shareholders and your valuable feedback, with the goal of creating even better virtual-only shareholders meetings. We sincerely hope that you will support GMO Internet Group's approach and help us enhance the quality of these meetings together. Now, the Secretariat will provide an explanation of today's proceedings. We will begin by explaining the proceedings of this meeting, as well as how to submit questions and exercise your voting rights. Next, we will provide an overview of the proposals listed in the Notice of Convocation. This will be followed by a Q&A session with shareholders. And finally, the voting on proposals. The Notice of Convocation can be accessed via the Notice tab at the top of your screen. If any issues arise that affect the progress of this meeting, such as a communication failure, we will promptly post updates on the home screen of this site, as well as on the shareholders meeting page of our website. In the event that we are unable to proceed with today's agenda, the backup date will be tomorrow, Saturday, March 22nd, at 10 a.m., as stated on page 2 of the online Notice of Convocation. If there is no official notice of a communication failure, but the video appears distorted, it may be due to your viewing environment. In such cases, please try refreshing the page. To submit a question, please click the Questions tab at the top left of your screen and enter your message in text format. Question submission is now open. Each shareholder may submit one question. Please begin by writing a brief summary or the main point of your question in 150 characters or fewer. This summary will be the portion read aloud by the chairperson during the Q&A session. Below that, you may provide further context or details explaining the background or reason for your question. Due to system limitations, the total character limit is 2,000 characters. We will close the question submission period at the start of the live Q&A session, after addressing questions submitted in advance. Please submit your questions as early as possible. Please note that we may refrain from answering questions that are not directly related to the proposals being discussed at this meeting. In cases where we receive similar questions, we may provide a consolidated response. Thank you for your understanding. To submit a motion, please use the Motions tab at the top left of your screen. Please limit the content of your motion to 250 characters. If we need to confirm any details regarding your motion, we may contact you. In that case, we will notify you through the My Messages section within the Motions tab. When a motion or question is submitted, we may display the content along with the shareholder's last name. Please note that your name may be broadcast in real time. When it is time to vote on the proposals, a voting button will appear in the Voting tab at the top of your screen. You may exercise your voting rights by clicking this button. The chairperson will provide further instructions at the time of voting. This concludes the procedural guidance. We will now move on to the official matters of the meeting, as outlined in the Notice of Convocation. Next, we will provide an explanation of the audit report. The methods and results of the audit are described in detail on pages 123 to 130 of the online Notice of Convocation. There were no issues identified by the accounting auditor or the Audit and Supervisory Committee. Next, we will present an overview of the business report and today's agenda items. Please refer to the screen. Internet for everyone. This has been the corporate slogan of GMO Internet Group since our founding. Guided by this vision, we have consistently provided internet infrastructure and service platforms since day one. As a comprehensive internet group, comprising 114 consolidated companies, including 10 listed entities, we continue to drive forward group-based management throughout this fiscal year. In the fiscal year ending December 2024, GMO Internet Group leveraged its strong, essential, and recurring revenue base to achieve its 16th consecutive year of revenue growth, reaching 277.4 billion yen. Operating profit came in at 46.6 billion yen, marking a new record high for the first time in 2 fiscal years. Here is a breakdown of revenue by segment. While the financial segment declined year-on-year due to a particularly strong performance in the previous fiscal year, our infrastructure segment expanded steadily. The payments business led by GMO Payment Gateway continued to perform strongly, and significant contributions were also made by unlisted group companies that have shown rapid growth since joining the group. Next is operating profit by segment. Despite recording 9.5 billion yen in provisions and exit-related costs for our Thai securities operations, the financial segment still achieved profit growth. We have decided to withdraw from the Thai securities business and have already taken steps to minimize its impact on future performance. The infrastructure segment achieved a record high profit for the 9th consecutive year, and the advertising and media segment also posted record earnings. Growth in the infrastructure business has accelerated thanks to our core payments business at GMO Internet, as well as the strong performance of recently added unlisted companies. This has further highlighted the strengths of our group-based management approach. As for the final profit, as you can see, profit decreased due to extraordinary losses. Our basic policy for shareholder returns is a total payout ratio of 50%. Of this, we allocate at least 33% to dividends and the remaining 17% to share buybacks and cancellations. Based on this policy, we have set the annual dividend per share at 41.8 yen. Here is the status of our total shareholder return ratio. As indicated by the red line, the ratio has consistently exceeded our basic policy target of 50%. Most recently, we announced a share buyback totaling 10 billion yen, significantly exceeding the 17% portion of net income outlined in our policy. As a result, the total return ratio for fiscal year 2024 is expected to reach 108%. We will continue to provide steady shareholder returns while maintaining a healthy balance with our equity capital. Finally, we would like to talk about the further evolution of our group management. GMO Internet Group operates based on a long-term vision known as the 55-year plan. Under this plan, we aim to become a corporate group with 10 trillion yen in revenue and 1 trillion yen in ordinary income by the year 2051. In pursuit of this goal, we have been exploring the optimal organizational structure to ensure the realization of this plan. As of January this year, we have transitioned to a pure holding company structure. This shift is significant for two main reasons. First, it promotes autonomous management. By delegating authority to individual companies, we can accelerate decision-making and execution. Second, it maximizes group synergy. With our new structure placing us in a more neutral holding company position, group companies operate on equal footing, allowing for smoother synergy creation. These two elements will help accelerate our growth and solidify the foundation for sustainable development. In closing, GMO Internet Group will continue to accelerate its group management, deliver indispensable services for the internet-driven society, and work toward our long-term vision of becoming a corporate group that thrives for the next 100 years. Internet for everyone. Now, we will move on to today's items for resolution. Proposal number 1, partial amendment to the Articles of Incorporation. This proposal seeks approval for changes to our Articles of Incorporation to explicitly include the GMOism philosophy and update our stated business purposes. GMO Internet Group continues to operate based on GMOism, a set of guiding principles and corporate mottos, including our Spirit Venture Declaration. To reinforce our mission of Internet for everyone, we propose incorporating GMOism into our Articles of Incorporation to clarify our corporate philosophy. Additionally, as of January 1, 2025, we transitioned to a holding company structure responsible for group management. To ensure sustainable growth and efficient brand management, we also propose adding new business objectives. Details are provided on pages 18 to 19 of the online reference documents for the General Meeting of Shareholders. Proposal number 2, election of 5 directors, excluding Audit and Supervisory Committee members. This proposal seeks the election of 5 directors, as the terms of all current directors, excluding those who are members of the Audit and Supervisory Committee, will expire at the conclusion of this meeting. Details are provided on pages 20 to 25 of the online reference documents for the General Meeting of Shareholders. Proposal number 3, election of 1 director who is an Audit and Supervisory Committee member. This proposal seeks the election of 1 director who is an Audit and Supervisory Committee member, as the term of 1 such director will expire at the conclusion of this meeting. Details are available on page 26 of the online reference documents for the General Meeting of Shareholders. That concludes the explanation of the proposals. We will now respond to questions regarding the reported items and proposals, followed by the voting process. The Q&A session will begin with responses to questions submitted in advance by shareholders, followed by answers to questions received during the meeting from virtual participants. Once we have completed responding to the advanced questions, we will close the question submission period. To begin, we have received 6 questions in advance through the dedicated website. We will now address those. Now let us begin with the first question. I will read it aloud. The question we received is, compared to other companies, what are the strengths of GMO Internet Group's AI strategy? Thank you very much for your question. As the intent behind the term AI strategy in your question is not entirely clear, whether it refers to our internal use of AI or our business strategies involving AI, we would like to address both aspects. First, regarding our internal AI utilization strategy, on November 30th, 2 years ago, OpenAI, led by Sam Altman, released ChatGPT. The impact it had on me was as powerful as when I first encountered the internet. Immediately, I shared the vision across our entire group that we will become the #1 corporate group in AI utilization, and began implementing various initiatives. As a result, we are currently saving nearly 1 million hours per month across approximately 8,000 employees. We believe this places us among the leading corporate groups in Japan in terms of AI utilization. This has led to faster execution and significant cost reductions across the group. Now, regarding our business strategy involving AI, we are taking proactive steps based on our outlook for how AI will reshape the world over the next 3, 5, and 10 years. In short, we are not engaged in the development of generative AI itself. Instead, we are focusing on 2 areas: providing the infrastructure needed to support the growing use of generative AI, and offering service infrastructure that helps more users take advantage of generative AI in a convenient way. For the first area, we are working with NVIDIA to provide infrastructure for generative AI, specifically server platforms. The second part, an example would be something like our Tenbin AI service. We're building tools that help people use generative AI more efficiently. It's kind of like that gold rush analogy, where instead of digging for gold yourself, you sell the pickaxes, the shovels, and the jeans. That's exactly what we're doing. So that's an overview of our AI strategy, both how we use it internally and how we're approaching it as a business. If anything's unclear or if you'd like more detail, feel free to reach out via our IR site. All right, let me move on to the second question. I'll go ahead and read it. What kind of impact do you think the business succession to GMO Ad Partners Inc. through this absorption-type split will have on the overall competitiveness of GMO Internet Group? In particular, please comment on strengthening the internet infrastructure and internet advertising media businesses. Thank you very much for your question. I'll take this one as well. To sum it up in one phrase, now that the head has become lighter, the entire group can move faster.
そういうふうに考えています。
That's how I see it.
今まで GMO インターネットグループ本体は
Ever since we entered the internet business in 1995, yeah, 30 years ago now, the group headquarters has been both running businesses and building the group at the same time. We've been functioning as a kind of business operating holding company. And I've done both, running businesses and making investments to build this group. I've always had these two wheels spinning in my head at the same time. Why did I do that? Well, right now we've got 114 companies in the group, and every single one of their CEOs is an entrepreneur. Excuse the bluntness, but there's not a single salaryman CEO in this group. As the founder, I truly love this group. And honestly, I say this with pride. I think we're the strongest group of entrepreneurs in Japan. So unless I'm out there running businesses myself, showing them through my own actions, I wouldn't be able to lead this group. And I believe that's really how it's worked all these years. Think about it. If someone's just an investor, just a shareholder, and they start saying you should do this or do that, would people really listen? But I've been in there every day talking with the CEOs of all 114 companies, saying, what if we tried this? Or let's do that. They listen because I've got a track record. If I didn't, they'd just be like, who are you to talk? I've built this from scratch. I don't need to hear it from you. Up until now, growing my own businesses gave me the credibility to lead the group. But now, 30 years later, I've started to feel that maybe I don't need to do it all myself anymore. Actually, by leaving things to each company, we can probably move even faster and achieve even greater growth. So with all that in mind, this latest move means that GMO Internet Group 9449 is now fully shifting toward a pure holding company structure. We're not entirely a holding company just yet, but that's clearly the direction we're heading in. As the headquarters moves into a more focused holding role, we've become a lot lighter. And when the head gets lighter, decisions get faster, actions get faster. Basically, speed improves across the board. Once the head speeds up, it's only natural that the whole group speeds up too. So this decision, in that sense, is a decision to accelerate the entire group. Now, your question also touched on strengthening the internet advertising and media business, so let me speak to that. we transferred our original infrastructure business, what we built the group on, to 4784. And for that infrastructure business to keep growing, collaboration with media and advertising is essential. Up until now, we've been paying advertising expenses, like to ad agencies and affiliate partners who help drive traffic. One of those partners we were paying was 4784. And now we've essentially joined forces. So that means we're cutting costs, specifically those commission fees. And on top of that, we're speeding things up. Now that infrastructure and advertising are under one roof, the whole thing can move faster. Thanks to this move, 9449 is now faster. The entire group is picking up speed, and even 4784 itself is operating more quickly. Frankly, when it comes to group restructuring, I really don't think there could have been a better decision than this. So I hope you'll look forward to seeing how this translates into growth in our future performance. That wraps up the second question. All right, let's move on to the third question. Here it is. I understand that with the transition to a holding company structure, the existing infrastructure business has been transferred to the current GMO Internet, formerly GMO Ad Partners. But why did you have to discontinue the shareholder benefits that were usable with those services as well? And even now, the new GMO Internet 4784 hasn't announced any equivalent benefits. As someone who invested in your company, because I valued both the quarterly dividend system, something rare among listed companies, and the generous shareholder perks, I'm really disappointed. I strongly request that you reconsider discontinuing the shareholder benefit program. The fourth question is along similar lines, so let me read that one too. I'd like to see the 5,000 yen shareholder coupon, usable for services from group companies, reinstated, at least for Konoha or onamai.com. I bought shares in your company specifically because I use Konoha, and if the benefit is gone, there's no longer any reason to hold the stock. If the yearly 10,000 yen benefit is going away, then I hope to see a corresponding increase in the dividend. Now I'd like to respond to both questions 3 and 4 together. First off, thank you very much for taking the time to send us your honest feedback. Now, regarding the discontinuation of the shareholder benefit program, I want to clarify that it hasn't been completely abolished. The benefit offered through GMO Click Securities is still in place. That said, we've received feedback about the discontinuation from other shareholders as well. So first and foremost, I want to sincerely apologize. We're truly sorry. Let me explain the reasoning behind this. As you may know, under corporate law, and just in general, it's required that all shareholders be treated equally. This is called the principle of shareholder equality, and it's considered common sense as well. When we look at shareholder benefits through that lens, the truth is they're not equal, because not all shareholders actually make use of them. In reality, it's only some shareholders who receive the advantage, and that, fundamentally, goes against the principle of equality for shareholders. That said, we also understand that many of you chose to invest in our company because you were expecting those benefits. So your frustration is completely valid, and we understand where you're coming from. That's why, at the time we discontinued the program, we also raised the dividend. We've been taking that approach across various group companies, increasing cash dividends to ensure shareholders are still being rewarded. Now, as for the holding company itself, 9449, we haven't made any changes to our dividend policy yet. But let me explain something. Up until now, the holding company was actually running a business, specifically the business that has now been transferred to 4784. So back then, 9449 had revenue to fund dividends, and it also had services that could be offered through shareholder benefits. That business, those services, were operated by 9449. But now, since they've all been transferred to 4784, 9449 no longer has that revenue source, nor does it have the services that could be used for benefits. So, unfortunately, 9449 is now in a position where it has neither the income nor the services to continue offering shareholder perks. And for that reason, we had to discontinue them. We're very sorry, but we hope you'll understand our position. That said, the products and services have been moved to 4784, and while it's true, as you pointed out, that 4784 hasn't reinstated shareholder benefits, they've taken another approach. They've increased their dividend payout ratio from 50% to 100% over the next 2 years. This shift was made based on the principle of shareholder equality, which I mentioned earlier. We hope for your kind understanding. And as for 9449, the holding company, its main source of income is dividends from group companies. Now, the group companies have been raising their dividend payout ratios. For example, 4784 has already raised theirs to 100%. Some of our other listed companies haven't made announcements yet. And since these decisions are made at each company's board of directors, I can't make any promises here today. That said, in the cases where announcements have already been made, the payout ratio has been increased from 50% to 65%. Since GMO Internet Group, 9449, relies primarily on dividends for income, once that income increases, we plan to have discussions within the board of directors about how we can best return value to our shareholders. Now, I want to be clear that we can't make any concrete promises at this point in time. But going forward, we plan to continue shareholder returns with a focus on dividends, and we'll be looking into those options positively. That's the general approach shared by the listed companies within our group. I hope this answers your question, but if there's anything I may have missed, please feel free to send us another question through our IR site. Let me now move on to the 5th question. Can you share the results of your IR activities this fiscal year, such as the number of meetings with institutional investors or company briefings for individual investors? As a prime market-listed company, there's a growing expectation for open dialogue with investors. What is your overall policy on that? Thank you very much for your question. I'll take this one as well. First off, when it comes to our group's IR activities, in addition to the quarterly earnings briefings, we've also been enhancing disclosures on our corporate website. We update our business and management strategies every quarter, so we'd love for you to take a look there when you get the chance. As for institutional investors, I've received a report from our IR team that in FY2024, we conducted over 200 meetings with institutional investors. We actually have a dedicated IR team, and they're out there working hard to stay proactive. So please be assured, we're taking IR seriously. All right, this brings us to the final advanced question, number 6. You've spoken in interviews over the past few years about business succession. Could you please share again how you plan to approach it? Also, as the company's leader, do you have a general idea of how long you intend to stay at the top? And lastly, the company's vision and your own personal goals in life might be different. So, what is your personal goal in life? Thank you very much for the question. I'd like to take this one myself. First, as a starting point, when I think about GMO Internet Group, I honestly want to say I hope it lasts 1,000 years. But of course, that's not exactly realistic. So instead, I'll say this. I want this group to last on a 100-year scale. Though deep down, I mean it, I want it to last forever. I want this group to keep going for 100 years and beyond. A company that contributes to its customers, to countries, to society as a whole. A group that brings more smiles into the world. That is, without a doubt, my one and only dream when it comes to my life in society. It's my mission, my life's goal. And it's something I'm pouring my entire heart and soul into. And to make that dream a reality, I want to dedicate the rest of my life to building the structure that makes it possible. I genuinely believe, from the bottom of my heart, that it's a miracle I was born in the age of the internet. To have lived through what I truly see as a once-in-a-century revolution. I thank God for that sincerely. To be born in this era, to have been given this life, I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for it all. And I truly believe this. If I don't put everything I have into this, then what kind of man am I? If I can't recognize this opportunity for what it is, then I don't deserve to call myself a man. That's how strongly I feel about this. The internet revolution, the AI revolution. I truly believe, from the bottom of my heart, that this is it. This is the chance to make the world a better place, to improve society, to bring more smiles to people's faces. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever come across another opportunity like this again. What I want, what I truly hope for, is that even after I'm gone, this group of companies will continue to share that same sense of wonder and inspiration with the world. That's the kind of organization I want to build. And that right there is my one and only job. Once that structure is in place, and once it's ready to run on its own, I intend to pass the torch to the person best equipped to operate it, a truly capable, inspiring leader. And honestly, the sooner I can do that, the better. So while I can't give you a specific date for my retirement today, please know this. My goal is to build that foundation and hand it over to the next leader as soon as I possibly can. As for the final part of your question, what is Mr. Kumagai's personal goal in life? Well, my answer is simple. My personal goal and this company's mission are one and the same. I hope that answers your question. All right. That concludes our responses to the 6 questions we received in advance. At this time, we will now close the question submission period for those attending the virtual shareholders meeting. We will now begin reviewing the questions we've received, so please bear with us for a moment. Thank you all for your patience. We've received a total of 7 questions from shareholders attending virtually. I, along with the relevant executives, would now like to respond to these questions, either myself or together with the appropriate officer, depending on the topic. So, just to let you know, we had actually asked shareholders to stay within a character limit for their questions. That was to ensure we could manage the overall time and also maintain fairness across all the questions we received. Some shareholders submitted questions that went beyond the intended character limit, and in some cases, we may need to summarize the content in order to read it aloud. We sincerely apologize for that, and we ask for your kind understanding. We'll read out as much as we can and do our best to provide thoughtful answers. Now then, should I read the shareholder number first? It doesn't really matter? Okay. All right. Let's move on to the first question we received from a shareholder. As part of your sustainability and human rights initiatives, have you considered raising awareness about the issue of abductions by North Korea? According to the Japanese government's website, more than 18 million people, about 15% of the population, have signed petitions regarding this issue. It's considered one of the most prominent human rights issues in Japan, and the UN continues to pass annual resolutions condemning North Korea's actions. In the private sector, some companies are already partnering with the government to raise awareness, for example by hosting exhibits related to Megumi Yokota's case. GMO Internet Group's human rights policy expresses respect for international norms, and by raising awareness about this issue, I believe the company can not only contribute to human rights education, but also enhance its brand image. In addition, I believe that publicly stating your company does not provide services to North Korea-related organizations would further contribute to society from a human rights standpoint. Would you consider taking action in this area? First of all, thank you very much for your question and for your thoughtful proposal as well. We will definitely take this matter back for internal discussion and will consider it seriously and positively. Also, from the sustainability perspective you've rightly pointed out, not providing services to entities that are involved in human rights violations, that's something that's completely in line with our values and something we take very seriously. Once again, thank you sincerely for bringing this to our attention, for offering such a meaningful proposal from a new perspective. All right, next, I'll read a question. The Tokyo Stock Exchange has raised concerns about parent subsidiary listings, particularly in regard to protecting minority shareholders. What is your stance on this issue, and what are your future plans regarding parent subsidiary listings? Thank you very much for your question. I'll go ahead and answer this one as well. First of all, I often talk about the idea of learning from history in my conversations with people involved in our management. Some of you may have seen me mention this in magazine interviews as well. What I mean is, when thinking about how organizations should be structured, I often say, the longest-lasting organizations in history aren't companies, they're religions. So when it comes to structure, we can learn a lot from religion. The reason I say this is that no one starts a company expecting it to fail. And yet, most of them do. If we look at the numbers, even though not a single founder believes their company will fail, 70% are gone within 5 years, and only 2 to 3% make it to 10 years. That's 2 or 3 out of 100. And here's the real kicker. Only 0.3% of companies survive 20 years. That number comes from Japan's tax authority, so it's a solid statistic. In other words, just 1 in 300 companies makes it past the 20-year mark. So again, everyone thinks they'll succeed, but in reality, most don't. With that in mind, I asked myself back in my 20s, what kind of organizations actually do last a long time? And when I really thought about it, the answer I arrived at was religions. Religions have lasted for over 2,000 years. They've endured for millennia. Meanwhile, companies, despite paying people to work, often don't last. Religions, on the other hand, continue for thousands of years while receiving money in the form of donations. That really caught my attention, and I actually spent some time studying it. I found that religions have two important aspects. One is the spiritual side, the part that brings people happiness. That's the most important. The other is the external structural side, how they're built and organized. And when I looked closely, I saw that many religions around the world have something in common. People come together regularly. They read the same things and sing the same songs. They wear the same symbols. They make the same gestures. And they share stories, myths that form a foundation of belief. That's why I've come to believe that when it comes to building an organization, you need both a mission that truly makes people happy and those structural elements I mentioned earlier. By embedding these qualities into the organization, you give it shape, direction, and unity. Everyone starts moving in the same direction with more speed, and I believe the chances of long-term survival increase dramatically. So I often say this: in how we build our organizations, we learn from religion. And in how we build our businesses, we learn from the old Japanese zaibatsu. I realize my answer's getting a little long, but I really want to emphasize this. We learn about organization from religion, and we learn about business from the old zaibatsu. And it's that zaibatsu model that I want to focus on for a moment. When this shareholder meeting is over, I'd encourage you to take a look at the stock listings. Type in Mitsubishi, or Sumitomo, or Mitsui into the ticker search, and just see how many companies come up. The Tokyo Stock Exchange has recently raised concerns about parent-subsidiary listings, but if you enter Mitsubishi, you'll find over 20 listed companies. Same with Sumitomo. Japan's industrial history is a history of parent-subsidiary listings. Let's be honest, many of you here today are probably working with or using services from companies in these former zaibatsu groups. Can the Japanese economy function without them? I don't think so. And here at GMO Internet Group, we currently hold 2 trillion yen on our balance sheet. On the liabilities side, our funding, we've been incredibly supported by Japan's megabanks, which of course were originally established by these very same zaibatsu groups. We raise capital from these financial institutions, invest that capital on the asset side of the balance sheet, and that's what builds our profits and losses, our entire P&L. I truly believe that having group companies listed is the right approach, because history has already proven it. That's why, in the midst of this internet revolution, if we want to keep growing over the long term, on a 100-year scale, we need to learn from the companies that have stood the test of time, and we need to put those lessons into action. That's the foundation of how I think about listing our group companies. And I intend to continue with this policy going forward. Now, if you look at this from the perspective of GMO Internet, the holding company, then yes, if we were focused purely on net profit, maybe parent subsidiary listings wouldn't be the most efficient choice. But let me give you an example. You all probably know GMO Payment Gateway, one of our outstanding group companies. It's led by Ainora, who also serves as an executive officer of the holding company. And let me tell you, the reason that business is growing so strongly is because Ainora is leading a listed company. He's absolutely driven. Now imagine if he were just the head of a division, say, the payments division, within GMO Internet Group. Do you really think he'd be this fired up? Actually, he's here with us today. Should we call him up and ask? Come on, stockholder meetings shouldn't be boring, scripted affairs, right? Let's make them interactive. We've got a huge number of shareholders watching right now. Hey, Ai-chan, instead of sitting all the way over there, why don't you come up here? What do you think? If you were just the head of the payments division? Now, Ai-chan's a solid guy. I'm sure he'd still do a great job. But honestly, having a company listed speeds everything up. It helps attract great talent, it creates real momentum, and it gives leaders like him proper incentives. So really, isn't it better all around?
Let's be real and official.
Absolutely, let's go all in.
Honestly, we'd give it our all either way, because we're committed to supporting our CEO. That feeling doesn't change, but still, being listed, there's a certain sense of tension, or maybe motivation, that comes from being evaluated by shareholders. It sharpens your focus. As you pointed out, the strong desire to increase corporate value to make our customers happy, that's exactly what drives us now. And yes, there's no doubt that it's a major source of motivation.
Now imagine if the payments business had just stayed a division within GMO Internet Group. But today, it's a fully listed company, growing fast and recognized by investors around the world. There's no such thing as what if in history, and of course, we can't go back and change it. But still, if it had stayed that way, would we really be where we are now?
To be precise, just as Kumagai-san mentioned, we travel twice a year to places like Europe and New York to speak with institutional investors, sharing our business updates and growth strategy. And honestly, we learn so much from those conversations. By being listed, I really believe the amount we learn, the insights we gain, is 2 or even 3 times greater than what we'd get as just a department head within the company. To give you an example, I place a lot of importance on internal training and recruitment. But in terms of real learning, I think we actually gain far more from our customers and shareholders, much more than from inside the company. What shapes me today is the input and stimulation I get from being out in the world, hearing different perspectives, staying informed, staying challenged. So when I think about it that way, both corporate value and my personal motivation are 2 or 3 times greater than they would be if we hadn't gone public.
Thank you.
That's the honest truth.
All right, let's keep things moving. Thanks, everyone. Now, since we've got the president of 4784 here with us today, let's hear from Mr. Ito, the president and CEO of what was formerly GMO Ad Partners and is now GMO Internet. We've transferred the business to your company, so if you don't mind, how about sharing a few words? You were a division before, right? Come a little closer. Yeah, right there. So tell us, now that you've become a listed company, how has your mindset changed? And how do you see your business evolving from here? Just a quick message for our shareholders, if you would.
Right. First of all, my role has completely changed. Up until now, I was just in charge of one business unit. My sole focus was on how to grow sales and profits. But now, we're a listed company. So I have to think about how shareholders see us, how to help them understand who we are, how to make our company appealing to investors, how to communicate our growth strategy clearly. There's just so much more to consider now, and I really feel it. We're being watched by more people, trusted with their expectations, and we have to live up to that. Compared to last year, it's a whole different mindset.
Listing a company really does amplify your personal commitment, doesn't it?
It becomes something you truly own.
All right, got it. Let's keep pushing forward together.
Thanks again.
Now, I know we've had a question on this, so let me just say, when it comes to our group company listing strategy, we don't use the word subsidiary in this group, so I'll stick with group company strategy. Lastly, I understand that some investors may be concerned that listing group companies means the holding company, 9449, could lose out on some of its final profit. And sure, if you look at it with simple math, that may seem true. But in reality, once these listed companies start growing on a curve, what you get is exponential growth. And in the end, even from 9449's perspective, I believe profits will rise dramatically. So I truly hope you'll look forward to how this strategy, this approach to group listings unfolds in the years to come. And that concludes my answer to your question. If there's anything I haven't covered, please feel free to reach out through our IR site. Sure, we've received a question about new business initiatives we're currently considering. Now, anything we haven't officially announced yet would fall under insider information, so I won't be discussing that here. But I'd be happy to talk about one of the key initiatives we've already made public. This year, our P&L strategy is focused on the theme, GMO will protect your internet security. Let's see if we can pull up the website. Could you bring up the GMO Security 24 site on screen? Please give us just a moment, and I'll show you what we've been working on. Across the entire group, our focus this year is on cybersecurity, and the first service we've launched in this area is what you're about to see here. This is it. This is the interface. Right here on the site, you can enter your email address or your website URL, and the system will check, free of charge and 24/7, whether your email credentials may have been leaked or whether your website might be vulnerable to hacking. Within our group of 8,000 employees, or as we call them partners, 1,100 are involved in the cybersecurity business. Among them are highly skilled professionals, what we call white hat hackers. And this site you see here was built using their combined expertise. This service is part of our core strategy this year to help protect your digital safety. If the system detects that your password may have been leaked, and we encourage our shareholders to try it as well, please make sure to change your password immediately. And if you enter your website's URL and the tool displays a message like "at risk," we strongly recommend that you take action on your end to resolve it. In other words, the goal is for all of us to work together to reduce the damage caused by cyber attacks. Now, if you're unable to fix the issue on your own, for example, if your website is flagged as vulnerable but you don't have the means to patch it, you can reach out to us directly. That's where our business comes in. We'll step in with professional support and help resolve the issue. Now, let me show you our second initiative, Could you click on the tab at the top that says Conference? This is an event we held on March 6th. We reserved the ballroom in the basement of our primary headquarters and welcomed over 1,000 in-person guests. Within just 24 hours, we had around 3,000 online viewers across our website and YouTube, and that number is now quickly approaching 10,000 and counting. The event was called the GMO Cybersecurity Grand Conference and Awards Ceremony. Why did we host this? Because one company alone can't protect everything. It takes collaboration between the public sector, private sector, and academia to truly create a safer internet society. That's what this event was all about, raising awareness and starting a shared conversation. What we're aiming for is this. When you think about home security, you probably think of names like Seikomu or Alsoc. They're the first that come to mind. But when it comes to internet security, what company name pops into your head? Exactly. For many people, nothing really comes to mind. That's the gap we want to fill. We want GMO to become the name you think of first when it comes to online security. That's the vision behind this new project. It's been 30 years. We began our internet business in 1995, which means this year marks exactly 3 decades. And over those 30 years, we've been one of the companies that helped expand the internet more than anyone else in Japan. Every day, you probably use Yahoo Japan, Google Japan to search the web. And you may not know this, but over 80% of the websites you visit are using some form of GMO service behind the scenes. As one of the companies that helped spread the internet across Japan, it truly breaks our hearts, mine, and all of our partners across the group, to see words like cyber attack and cybercrime headlining the news day after day. The internet we helped grow, it was never meant to be used as a tool for harm. It was meant to make the world better. That's the belief we've built this business on. And yet, the reality we face is harsh, which is why we're calling this moment the second half of the internet revolution. Our mission now is to make the internet safer, to create a future with more smiles. And that's exactly why we launched the GMO Will Protect Your Internet Security project under the slogan, A Safer Future for Everyone. This is the business we're most focused on this year and next. I hope that answers your question. If there's anything we may have missed, please feel free to reach out to us through our IR website. All right, let's move on to the next question. This one is also from the same shareholder as before. Within your domain business, companies like onamai.com, Mumu Domain, and Value Domain all seem to offer similar services. What are the advantages and disadvantages of having multiple brands like this? And what is your view on possibly consolidating them in the future? Thank you for your question. I'll go ahead and answer this one as well. What you're referring to is part of GMO Internet Group's multi-brand strategy. We started our business in 1995, and on August 27, 1999, we became the first independently operated internet company in Japan to go public. At that time, I remember being asked by analysts, "Kumagai-san, how do you plan to continue growing from here?" And I explained our approach, this very multi-brand strategy. Back then, most investment professionals disagreed with the idea. They said things like, "Why don't you just consolidate the brands? It's only going to increase your costs." I tried to explain the strategy, but unfortunately, it didn't really resonate with them at the time. Now, 30 years later, let's take a look. When it comes to internet addresses, domain names like .com, .jp, .shop. We now hold over 80% market share in Japan. And if you search on Google Japan today, you'll find that 54% of the websites are hosted in our data centers. This is the result of our multi-brand strategy. A single brand could never have achieved that scale or reach. So in hindsight, I believe it's clear. History has proven that our strategy was the right one. Now, I could honestly talk about this for over an hour, so I'll keep it brief for today. But let me just say this. We intend to continue with our multi-brand strategy moving forward. This is a strategy that only a group like ours, one that deeply understands both the infrastructure and marketing of the internet, can truly pull off. I hope that answers your question. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us through our IR site. All right, I just asked the partner earlier, how much time do we have left? And they said, there's no time limit, so I've been talking nonstop. But is everyone still okay with that? We've still got a large number of shareholders tuned in right now. So, all right, let's keep going. I'll go ahead and read the next question. We've got 4 more questions to cover. Let me read the next one out loud. Looking at the stock price trends on page 48 of the Notice of Convocation, it appears the market sees little growth in recent years. In fact, dividends per share have been declining year by year. How do you plan to get the company back on a growth trajectory? Also, please ensure that the discontinuation of shareholder perks does not lead to further stock price declines. At the time the printed materials were prepared, what you mentioned was accurate. However, as of today, well, I haven't checked this morning's stock price yet, but as of yesterday, as you may have seen, the market has begun to recognize and understand our business strategy. We've surpassed, or are on the verge of surpassing, our highest stock price since last year. To be honest, yes, as you pointed out, our stock price didn't perform particularly well last year. We're now in the age of AI, and we're seeing a flood of new IPOs. And as we've been around for 30 years, it's only natural that some investors' attention shifted toward newer names. But, as I mentioned earlier, you can't judge a company by a single moment in time. We've consistently grown revenue and profit. That's our track record. Let me give you an example. Ainura, who spoke here earlier. Do you know where his company ranks among the 4,000 listed companies in Japan? They are currently ranked number 2 among all companies that have continued to post both revenue and profit growth. Number 2, out of 4,000 companies. Now, GMO Internet Group, 9449, we operate multiple businesses under one umbrella. So in terms of profit growth, our track record unfortunately ended 2 years ago, after 13 consecutive years of growth. But in terms of revenue, GMO Internet Group has now marked 16 consecutive years of growth. Out of all 4,000 listed companies in Japan, only about 1% have achieved that. We're in the top 10. There's simply no reason why that shouldn't be recognized. Maybe the stock market hasn't caught up yet. Maybe not today. But I have complete confidence. As many of you know, I am the founder of this company and also its largest shareholder. Of course, I hope our stock will be fairly and properly valued. Earlier, I spoke about dedicating my entire life to this group, to the growth of the internet and AI. And I believe without a doubt that commitment will ultimately be reflected in our stock price. That is my firm belief. I hope this answers your question. And more than anything, I ask that you continue to support us, not just in the short term, but with a long-term perspective. All right, moving on to the next question. This one is about the company names of 9449 and 4784. The question seems to have been cut off midway, but I'm guessing it may be about the similarity between the two names. If that's not the case, please feel free to send us a follow-up via the IR site. But assuming the question is about the similarity between GMO Internet Group and GMO Internet, let me go ahead and provide an answer. This setup is actually quite similar to SoftBank and SoftBank Group. We take great pride in the name GMO Internet, a name that has supported the Internet's growth and society as a whole. GMO Internet Group refers to the entire group of companies, while the standalone GMO Internet is the name used by 4784. It may be a little confusing at first, but the difference is simply the presence or absence of the word group. And with that in mind, we plan to continue using these names as they are. I hope that answers your question. All right, we've got two more. Actually, just one more question left. Okay, let's go ahead and respond to the final question. This one is about our virtual-only shareholder meetings. The shareholder is asking if we could return to in-person or hybrid-style meetings, instead of continuing with the virtual-only format we've had for the past few years. The full message was around 2,000 characters, so I'll need to summarize it briefly. But essentially, this is more of a request than a question, asking us to consider moving back to real-world face-to-face meetings. First of all, let me say, we are one of the most active corporate groups in Japan when it comes to hosting virtual-only shareholder meetings. Now, why are we so focused on this format? Well, traditional in-person meetings have been held millions of times around the world. But virtual-only meetings? They're still relatively new, with only a small number of examples so far. Even today, you'll notice we're not just standing behind a podium. Our board members are coming forward, using gestures, speaking directly to you. And right now, there are hundreds of shareholders watching this live on YouTube. Some of you may be watching during your lunch break. Others might be preparing food in the kitchen while listening in. And that's exactly the point. This is a new kind of shareholder meeting, and it's something even the government is actively promoting. We want to keep exploring the full potential of what this format can offer. And this is exactly why we, as an internet-based corporate group, want to take the lead in actually trying this out, showing what's possible, and giving the world something to compare. For many years, we hosted traditional in-person shareholder meetings. At one point, I believe the number of shareholders who came in person was the true measure of how engaged we were. We even treated these events like individual investor conferences, and at one point, over 2,000 shareholders came to attend. I still remember the early days. I think it was the basement of the Diamond Hall in Aoyama. We served Chinese food and drinks, and by the end, some rather tipsy shareholders got a little too lively. It was quite an experience. So, yes, I understand how some of you may feel, but for now, I ask that you let us continue this experiment with virtual shareholder meetings. There are certainly pros and cons, but right now, we have hundreds of shareholders watching, some of them tuning in from overseas. And when you submit questions, they come in clearly, thoughtfully written. Text helps you organize your thinking, which, in turn, allows us to respond thoroughly, just like we're doing today. At in-person shareholder meetings, questions are often asked on the spot, live, without much preparation. I've attended dozens of shareholder meetings across our group over the years, and to be honest, there were times when people in the audience would yell things like, "What are you even talking about? Sit down already!" We've seen our fair share of that in the past, but with a virtual meeting, that doesn't happen. You, our shareholders, can organize your thoughts clearly in writing, and I, in turn, can take the time to respond thoughtfully and thoroughly. So while I absolutely understand the desire to return to in-person meetings, I believe this new format offers many benefits as well. And since this approach is also being promoted by the government, I'd like to continue exploring the potential of virtual shareholder meetings to take them even further and make them something truly new. We appreciate your feedback and will take it seriously. But for now, we do plan to continue with the virtual format, and we ask for your kind understanding. Thank you again for your opinion. With that, I believe I've answered all of today's questions as sincerely and completely as possible. If there's anything we may have missed, please don't hesitate to follow up through the post-meeting survey or by submitting a question via our IR site. That concludes all questions related to today's proposals. To all the shareholders who submitted questions, thank you very much for your active participation and engagement. We will now proceed to the voting on all agenda items. We will now proceed with voting on the following agenda items. Proposal 1. Partial amendments to the Articles of Incorporation. Proposal 2. Election of 5 directors, excluding those who are Audit and Supervisory Committee members. Proposal 3. Election of 1 director who is an Audit and Supervisory Committee member to all shareholders attending online. Please click on the Voting tab at the top left of your screen, select For or Against for each proposal, and then click the Submit button. We will now begin the voting process. You have 2 minutes to cast your votes.
GMO.
世界を前へ。決済で次を作る会社 GMO ペイメントゲートウェイ。
鏡の中の自分は何も言わない。私が動かないと動き出せない。見つめよう、私を。今までの私、これからの私。変わるなら今。GMO クリック証券。
では、ただいまをもちまして投票を
Voting is now closed.
いただきます。ご投票いただき誠にありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for casting your votes.
採決の結果、第1号
Based on the results of the voting, including advance submissions via proxy and the Internet, Proposal 1 has received the approval of more than 2/3 of voting rights, and Proposals 2 and 3 have received the approval of a majority of voting rights. As such, all proposals have been approved as originally proposed. Thank you for your support. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to invite each of the newly elected directors to offer a few words directly to our shareholders. Next, we will hear from Director Yasuda. My name is Yasuda, and I serve as the CFO of the group. Earlier, a shareholder asked about parent subsidiary listings, and I'd like to take this opportunity to emphasize that each of our group companies continues to grow by drawing on the strength of the capital markets. And we are deeply committed to returning the fruits of that growth to our shareholders through meaningful shareholder returns. We will continue striving forward as a growing corporate group with the goal of bringing smiles to our shareholders. Thank you very much for your continued support. Next, we will hear from Director Nishiyama. My name is Nishiyama, and thank you very much for electing me as a director. As COO of the group, I will primarily be supporting our CEO, Mr. Kumagai, on the business execution side. As he mentioned earlier, this year we are fully committed to embedding the message, GMO will protect your internet security. We will be placing strong focus on strengthening our efforts in the field of cybersecurity. Thank you for your continued support. Next, we will hear from Director Ainora. My name is Ainora, and thank you very much for electing me as a director. I am responsible for overseeing the payment business within the group. Moving forward, I will do my utmost to ensure that this segment, working in synergy with the products and services of other group companies, can become a driving force for the group's overall performance. Thank you for your continued support. Next, we will hear from Director Ito. My name is Ito, and thank you very much for electing me as a director. With the transition of GMO Internet Group from an operating holding company to a pure holding company, my own role has also shifted as of this fiscal year. As the person responsible for overseeing the infrastructure division within the group, I will continue working hard to contribute to the growth of the entire GMO Internet Group. Thank you for your continued support. Next, we will hear from Director Matsui, who serves as an Audit and Supervisory Committee member. My name is Matsui, and thank you very much for electing me as a director. As a member of the Audit and Supervisory Committee, I will carry out my duties with sincerity and fairness in order to support the sound development of the GMO Internet Group and ensure we fulfill our social responsibilities. Thank you for your continued trust and support. Lastly, my name is Masatoshi Kumagai, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude once again for being re-elected as a director. To all our shareholders, thank you again from the bottom of my heart. In return for the trust and expectations you have placed in me, I will dedicate my life's work to the sustainable growth and the long-term enhancement of corporate value for this group, with a balanced approach to both investment for growth and returns to shareholders. We aim to build a company that is highly valued by the market and one that contributes to society over the course of a century and beyond. I assure you, from the heart, that we will continue to prioritize our shareholders in all that we do. We sincerely ask for your continued understanding and support. This concludes all items on the agenda for today's general meeting of shareholders. We sincerely thank you for your cooperation, which enabled the smooth and orderly conduct of the meeting. We remain fully committed to further enhancing our corporate value in order to meet the expectations of our shareholders. We ask for your continued understanding and support. With that, we hereby declare this meeting officially closed. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today. This concludes the annual general meeting of shareholders for the fiscal year ending December 2024. We kindly ask for your cooperation in completing the post-meeting survey. Please click on the Survey tab at the top left of your screen to submit your responses. The survey will remain open for the next 30 minutes. Your feedback will help us improve the operation of future shareholder meetings, so we would greatly appreciate your input. Thank you once again for joining us today.